weight loss.
Okay.
And I've been looking at homeopathy and radionics for healing, as far as, and then I bought the pendulum,
Okay.
and then got to found out more about
All right.
myself.
So in the Rosicrucian, who did you study or read on in the Rosicrucian? Which main authors? No main author?
Just all of the manuscripts and stuff. From
Okay, take it. All right. And you, as far as metaphysics or yoga, you have a background?
No.
So it's totally new to you? So you have no background in psychic development or
No.
spiritual development or yoga or, okay.
I just come from India. That's it.
But what did you study in India?
Are you Hindu?
No, I'm a Jain.
Jain? Okay. All right.
So my religion is based on spiritualism and non-violence.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
All right then. So, as far as well, right now, we're studying psychic development and psychic and spiritual development through the science of Raja Yoga, which all psychic and spiritual development actually comes from the practices of Raja Yoga. If you go, you can always trace any type of technique back to Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is the yoga of mental development, right? It's called the King Yoga. So you go back thousands upon thousands of years, you'll see that the Upanishads and all lead back to some type of Yoga Sutra, right? There's like 196 Yoga Sutras. Now, some 2,100 years ago, Patanjali came around and who was recognized as a Bodhisattva, a great one, a cosmic being that was born, and he organized this, and now they call it the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, right? And it's mostly framed under Raja Yoga, the yoga of mental development. So that's what we've been studying for the last couple of weeks. Last week, anyone remember what we went over last week?
Niyam.
We were going through Niyam through the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about some more, a little deeper into Niyam.
Okay.
If it's too cold, let me know and I'll warm it up a bit.
So, in Raja Yoga, everybody heard the 8 limbs of yoga, right? Who hasn't heard of the 8 limbs of yoga? You haven't? You heard of it? You heard of it? The 8 limbs of yoga is the thing, is one of the ways that they summarize Patanjali's take on this Raja Yoga. And the first, I don't have my hand up. The first one is Yama,
You want this one?
which is yeah. You have some? The first one is Yama. Y'all have some. The first one is Yama, which is to control thoughts and actions. The second one is Niyama, which is to bring about some type of spiritual observance of your thoughts and actions. And the third practice is asana. Yeah, asana, which is the practice of movement, controlling your actions through movement, right? And connected to that is mudra yoga and bhantis, which is still a form of mudra yoga. And everybody heard of mudra yoga, right? Who have it? Mudra yoga is a yoga of hand signs. Okay? It's mostly known for the yoga of hand signs, but it's the yoga of hand signs and posture. Okay? So with hand signs, everybody's seen the famous hand sign of this, right? The so-called hand sign of hand justice. What that is a way to control the subtle energy within the body. That's what it's actually doing. You're controlling what's called prana and chitta, or mind substance, that flows through the body. That's why you control it. The 5 fingers of the hands is connected to the 5 chakras, okay, along the spine. All right. The thumb is the base of the spine, which is earth, right? The pointing finger is the sex center, which is the sex center, which is water, right? It's the cosmic element for water, or the bhutas, right? Which is akas, right? And you have the middle finger, which is the finger. If you notice, this finger is the tallest finger in everyone's hand, right? If it's not, you deform. So that is the finger of fire. It's like a flame. A flame reaches up. That is the base of the spine. That's the base of the spine. I mean not the base of the spine. That's the solar plexus center, which is the Tijas and Bhutas. It's in prana is samana, right? And then you have the this finger, which is the heart chakra, right? It's the finger of air, and it represents vayu, right? And the bhutas, and it's the word prana. I think all of this is this in this chart here? It's here, right?
In the additional hand that you gave out.
And the last one is, the last finger represents the throat chakra, which is etheric sound, okay, or space. So the first finger is the base of the spine. Again, the second pointing finger is the sex center. You have the base, you have the sex center, you have the solar plexus, you have the heart chakra, and you have the throat. And this is the thumb, that's the pointing finger, the middle finger, this finger here, and the pinky is the throat. And you have what's called, I know a lot of people in the Western world, they call it the 5 elements, but the base is earth, this is water, this is fire or light, air. And this is a theory. Okay? Now, of course, when you go to the, now prana, everybody heard of prana, right? There's 5 major pranas. Everybody heard of the 5 major pranas? Huh? Where there's 5 major pranas. This is apana prana, right? The sex is water, so it's apas prana. This is samana. This is vaya. And this is udana. Oh, I mixed it up, didn't I? This is udana. Okay. So these are the 5 major pranas, right? And all of them are connected to the hand. So in different mudras.
Is the heart one distinct?
Huh?
Isn't the heart prana?
Oh yeah, I put this is the same thing. It's vaya too, but it's the bhutas. And you have the bhutas, the mahabhutas are the cosmic elements. Really deep, but they are the cosmic elements. Now, how you control the flow of prana within the body with mudras? A mudra seals and redirect and redistribute the subtle energy and mind substance. Okay? You have 3 major flows of energy in the body, right? And those major flows of the energy in the body, they run through the nadis. Everybody heard of the nadis, right? Think about the subtle nervous system. You can call the nadis that. It really is not a good definition for it, but what it really is called the flow of power, or the flow of prana, or the flow of vital life force, right? All right, so you have idol, nadis, and you have the pingala nadis, and then you have the sushumna nadis. Now these are the three major types of nadis within the body. All right, and it represents how it flows. The ida nadis is a mental flow of energy. Make it simple. This is how you can remember. Or energies, really. The pingala is a vital flow of energy. And the sushumna is a balanced flow because it's both. It's positive and negative flow of energy together. The idol is a negative flow, Pingala is a positive flow of nadis. Now, there are 242,000 nadi pathways within the body. Okay? There are 242,000 pathways within the body. Ernie is saying. So you have 242,000 nadi pathways. Those nadi pathways within the body can be controlled. The flow of that can be controlled through Mudra Yoga, and that's through sealing, redirecting and redistributing the flow of energy through a Mudra Yoga technique, which includes pranayama, visualization, imagination and visualization of your thoughts, and in a repetitive fashion, right? With purpose and direction, of course. So that's what asana is. When the yogi sit into a lotus position, then what he's doing, he's controlling the flow of energy on a physical level in order to control the flow. He's controlling the flow of blood and nerves on a physical level in order to gain control over the subtle energy. So when he sit in the lotus and push all the blood up and put pressure on the base of the spine, then he's sealing the flow of energy to those lower chakras and pushing the flow of energy up to the higher chakras. Okay? You have chakras in the leg that we don't, as humans, don't deal with, because those chakras are dealt with by animals. But we deal with the chakras above, from the base of the spine and up. So the yogi does that in order to push the flow of energy up, in order to put the pressure there, in order to move that flow of energy. Yeah.
Does the lotus do that automatically, or is it a conscious effort to move the blood from the legs up?
No, it does it automatically. I mean, you sit in the lotus for a minute, you'll see.
Feet go dead, yeah.
It goes dead, right? So it does it automatically. That's what Mudra Yoga is. Those positions put the necessary pressure and seals the energy on a physical and subtle level to allow you to think about something else and do something else. That's what yoga. You notice all yoga, it moves the body. It does things to help you split your consciousness up without spending a lot of concentration on it. Because why? You want to, when you get into yoga, what is the first thing they tell you in the limbs of yoga? Once you get to the mental parts of it, is concentration. What is concentration? Directing one's mind down one single pathway. So you want to train the body to do things at a command so that you can take the mind and push it somewhere else without thinking so much of all the details. Okay? So asana, that's what asana does. It's a form of Mudra Yoga that redirects, that seals, redirects, and redistributes subtle energies through techniques of hand signs, body positions, and visualization, imagination, and visualization. All right. The fourth limb is pranayama, right? The fourth limb is pranayama. Pranayama, of course, we go back to the Ida and the Pingala, the nadis, because the prana in the body is carried from where? In the nadis, it comes from where? Anyone? From the base of the spine. It comes from the base of the spine because why? What's in the base of the spine? Kundalini. The consciousness, the vehicle of consciousness of the body. Okay? The consciousness is, the main consciousness is not necessarily in your head. Okay? We're told that, but it's not. And it's evident with neurosciences, medical science, because they say what happened. If they touch something, if you touch something, the neurons does what? If I touch this to see if it's cold or hot, what happens? Yes, the signal leaves my hand and it goes up and down the spine before it's registered in the head. Why? Because your consciousness is the main parts of your consciousness is where? It's here. See? Your chakras, the chakras in the body is the points of consciousness within the body, not the brain. Okay? And we get that wrong so many times. So when you, the soul, created the body, what happened is that the spirit gave manifestation to the soul, because the spirit is unmanifested and it's been here forever. It's a part of the absolute, right? It has no beginning and no end, and it gave life or manifestation to the soul, and it gave the soul directives to involve itself and go through a series of experiences. Okay? When the soul came about, the thing that it did, it amassed it touched this Shakti power, this energy, and concentrated it and pushed it down through Sushumna. It pushed it down through Sushumna. And in doing that, it created the necessary environment in order to bring about different layers of consciousness. And Sushumna is the area, or turn this off. Sushumna is the area. It's a pure balance area that, in fact, it is called, in the middle of Sushumna, it's called the Brahmanati. All right, that shows the power of it. It's the nadi of the gods, in other words, or of God. So what happens when the soul push it through there, it can control it and balance it. And at that time, because the soul wants to shape the Shakti power into a state of consciousness. Now, but when the Shakti power is within Sushumna, it's all aware, just like the soul is. The soul is all aware because it came from what? It came from spirit. It came from God, the absolute. So, but it wants to bring about this, so it pushes it down through Sushumna. And as it goes down to Sushumna, you have all these different levels of consciousness that already exist. The chakras are levels of consciousness within the universe, okay? And it already exists. So it takes a little bit from each level of consciousness and it places it into the Muladhara, which is the base of the spine. And then from there, it begins to split it up and push this energy back out into the 242,000 pathways of the nadis, because it has to split the consciousness up in order to bring about this limited state of consciousness. Over 90% of the Shakti power that's been molded into this vehicle of consciousness called Kundalini, once reaching the equilibrium point of the base of the spine, it goes dormant and reveals the Shiva power in which it came from. And it creates these nadis, which moves out from the base of the spine and creates this matrix system called the nadis, and feels the auric substance that the soul created for itself. All right? And those nadis are designed where, as they move out, they cross section through all the available chakras or vortex centers within the body. There's 108 chakras within the body. Okay? You have major, minor, and minute chakras within the body. So these nadis, they cross section those minute, minor, and major chakras within the body. And that's how you develop your consciousness. Okay? So as we move through many lives of incarnation, we have to learn to tap into all these different layers of consciousness and control them, and control the energy flow through them. And then we can be like a Jesus, or a Krishna, or a Buddha. We can be as great as these beings because they had complete control over the flow of energy through their bodies. Okay? So in pranayama is the beginning of trying to control that. Ida and Pingala terminates at the nostrils. Okay? So that you know that Ida is the left nostril and Pingala is the right nostril. And in pranayama, you're taught to control the flow of breath. Okay? Breath is the most important energy, subtle energy that you can take into the body. We all know that if you stop eating food, you may last what, 6, 7, 8 weeks before you die, right? If you stop drinking water, within 3 to 4 days, you're dead. If you stop breathing within 5 minutes, you're dead. You lose consciousness and you die. So breath is the most important energy that you take in. So what the yogi is taught through pranayama is to balance that breath, is to learn how to retain that breath, learn how to increase the breath. And while doing this, what he's doing, he's balancing off the pranas within the body. He's balancing off the pranas within the body. That's what he's doing. So in the Ida and Pingala is about probably between 1 to maybe 6% of Kundalini power or vital life force within the body that's flowing back and forth within the body in order to keep the physical body, the astral body, the mental body, and all the pranic bodies running, right? So if we were able to control that prana and control the flow of that prana, then we can enhance all our physical senses. It's as simple as that, all right? So these techniques of pranayama, what it does, it teaches you to enhance the physical breath, whereby increasing the amount of subtle energy that you bring into the body, and the waste energy, the negative energy that you exhale out of the body, right? Because one of the first things you're taught in pranayama is to make sure that whatever you breathe, the amount of units you breathe in, you must breathe out that same amount in order to disperse the waste out of the body. Now, in doing this, what you do is you eventually clear the blockages that's built up over many, many lifetimes within the Gnostic flow, because that's the thing that holds us back. Over many, many years, or many, many lives, we build blockages within the Gnostic pathways, which limits our ability in many, many ways. It limits our physical abilities, it limits our mental abilities, our emotional abilities, it limits all these things. So the yogi is taught different aspects of pranayama in order to clear this, right? And that's what pranayama is all about. If you clear the Gnostic pathways, if you learn to clear the Gnostic pathways, then you will cleanse the aura of contamination, okay? And by doing that, what will happen is you'll have a balanced flow of Ida and Pingala that goes up to the brain and charge the brain and ionize the brain in a way so that it begins to register not only the physical senses, or the physical 5 or 10 senses that you have, but it will begin to register the astral senses that you have too in the astral body. Because in your astral body, in your auric field, you have a physical body, an astral body, a mental body, and an etheric body. Now, when you go to sleep at night, your astral body vacates, or aspect of your astral body, because you have many, many levels of astral body. But you have an astral body that leaves and go and repeat those things that you enjoy doing on the astral plane. If you enjoy playing tennis, then most likely your astral body is out there at night playing tennis. If you're the type of person that enjoy watching TV and doing word puzzles, then your astral body is probably doing that. So it's a wonder how good you become at things. Because when you go to sleep, you do the same thing. Okay? So one of the things you notice when you begin to astral project, when you gain control over your conscious mind, and you can make a conscious projection out of your body, you see a lot of these zombies. No wonder they have so many zombie movies going on, because that's what you see out there in the astral world. On the physical level, you see a bunch of people moving around, doing, and just oblivious of everyone else, just doing stuff like they zombies, insane or something. You know, they're totally unconscious of their environment. So one of the things that you do through pranayama and through the system of yoga is to gain control over your physical and astral senses. Now, what happens is when you can begin to register the physical senses at the same time you register the astral senses, it produces psychic powers, or what the yogis call siddhis. Okay? What happens is that you look at this room and you see all the physical things, but you can also see the astral entities or astral things that's here too. As you become better and better at this psychic ability, you can not only see the astral entities that have came to sit here and listen to this lecture, but you can also begin to see the astral planes that's here too, that's taking up the same space, right? Because we can, you know, we here at this university, but on the astral planes, we can be in the middle of the ocean, or maybe up on a mountain somewhere. See, because it's taking up the same space. So pranayama, with the right technique of concentration, contemplation, and meditation, teaches you to tap into your astral senses and merge them with the physical senses in order to produce this thing called psychic powers. Okay? That's what it does for you. That's what pranayama does. All systems of yoga use pranayama. If they're not advocating pranayama, then it's an incomplete system. If you look at all systems of yoga, pranayama is there. And if they're not advocating it, it's an incomplete system. That means that you're not being taught the whole thing. Because pranayama goes with all forms of yoga. Okay? The fifth, we're on the fifth, right? The fifth limb of yoga is the withdrawal of consciousness, right? Okay? The withdrawal of consciousness. This is to prepare you for the 6th, 7th, and 8th limbs of yoga. Now, you've been taught to control your thoughts and actions. Why do you control your thoughts and actions? We've got to go back a little bit. Why do you control your thought and actions? You control your thought and actions to do what?
Purify the body.
Huh?
Purify the nadi.
To purify the nadis, or what? The aura, right? So we have an aura. And this aura does what? What does the aura do?
It sustains you.
It sustains us. It keeps us alive, right? Just like the atmosphere of this earth, right? Right?
Yes.
If we go outside the atmosphere of this earth, what happens?
We die.
We die. Right? You live in an aura. It's a bad drawing. And the aura is actually is an atmosphere in which you build and live for yourself. Okay? It's your personal atmosphere. Now, all of us have our own aura. Right now, all of our auras are semi-connected. Because why? We're communicating. The only way I can communicate to you is by linking up with your aura. Okay? The only way you can communicate and hear me is by linking up with my aura. Because the aura is you. Okay? You have an auric structure. That auric structure is practically indestructible. Cannot be destroyed. You know, at least by everything we know. That auric structure will take you throughout eons and eons and eons and eons of existence. Okay? From the point the soul, from the point the spirit brought the soul into existence, the soul built this auric structure. And that auric structure will carry you out through many, many lifetimes. In the Theosophical Society, they call it the auric, they call it the unit, the living unit.
Oregon, is there something
Connected to that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Organs of type of energy.
Right.
It's another name for
It's another name for what?
pranic energy.
For pranic energy? What is it? Is it what language?
Particularly Akasha that it's referring to, but it's by this, I think it's a German scientist.
It's a German science. I'm talking about the auric structure. Now, in Sanskrit, they use several different names to describe it. But in English, this is probably the best way for you to understand. Think about it as an atmosphere around you. And all your bodies fit within this. Your physical body, your astral body, your mental body, the pranic formation that makes up all the bodies, the etheric body, all of that fits in there. The whole nadi system is within the aura. Okay, now, you attract things to you, and you mold your life around you through your auric body. Okay, your auric body is a magnetic pull that pulls everything to you, whether it's good or bad, supposedly. But everything is a lesson. All right, so it doesn't necessarily. I mean, it might be good. It might seem good and really it's bad. It might seem bad and really it's good. Okay? Because it's relative. All right? And most people can't handle that. But that's the way it is. Because sometimes a person goes through something bad in order to do what? Huh?
Learning.
To learn. To go through a purification period. So that they can once get that negative karma off of them for good and they can move on and never have to experience it again. You know? So sometimes we have to go through certain things in order to burn that negative karma up. All right? And never have to deal with it again. So that's where we come in. Everyone heard of samskaras? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, samskaras is what?
Scars within the
Mental
aura.
impressions.
Scars what?
Impressions within the aura.
Yeah, scars or impressions that's made on the aura. How's that done?
Right or wrong actions, negative or positive actions.
By your own thoughts and actions. Every thought you have, every action you make, right? It creates a scar on the aura. It changed the original configuration of the aura, which creates a series of other moves that need to happen in order for you to remove that, in order for you to bring the aura back to its original state, which its original state was a pure state. Okay? So what happens as we move on, as we started on our journey of reincarnation, we made all these stupid moves, which cause us to do what? To have to create maybe 1 million, 10 million, 1 billion moves in order to get back to the original position. So, to just simple, that's what we're doing through all these lifetimes. All right, through all these lifetimes. So we have hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of samskaras to either burn up or live through in order to get back to original position. Now, a samskara, what happens with a samskara, you create a thought, an action, that thought and action becomes a memory, and it's lodged in the aura. Okay? And you can test this out for yourself. You go and you pull up an iPod or phone or something, and you turn it to some type of song or whatever that you like. If that song for you, if happy memories are connected to that song, then what happens? You fall back into those memories. And all of a sudden you find yourself smiling, laughing, giggling, whatever. If it's sad, you fall back to those memories. Because why? What happens is the embedded samskara that's been sitting there for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, you have created the perfect situation for it to raise its head, either good head or ugly head. And it releases those emotions that you created. God didn't create it, you created it. Okay? So what happens, you create the environment. And that and because you have a connection to that song and that memory, that samskara comes back to the surface, it manifests itself, and you live through that. Okay? So what yoga is about cleansing the aura. All yoga is about cleansing the aura. It's about bringing a purification of these things. That's what it's about. So in your control of your thoughts, what happened? You predetermine all your actions. You predetermine your actions. Now, we know by predetermining our mental and physical actions, it brings about what? What's the thing, what does it bring about? Creation. Enlightenment, intelligence, right? If we study a series of actions, we can do what? We can produce anything, right? If we study a series of actions, then we have the radio, we have the television, we have the computer, because why? We mapped out a series of action and reactions that bring certain results. Those results can be used to bring about another action, until what? Until we have something. We have intelligence. We have intelligent movement. Right? So that's how simple it is.
Directly manipulating karma.
Directly manipulating karma. So what happens when we do that? We begin to burn up what? Samskaras. Because why? We're not creating other samskaras that will feed the old samskaras. You see? So the embedded samskaras within you, that have developed a particular personality and character for yourself, it feeds on the present action. Because why? We constantly live in the now. Right? So if we change the now by predetermining all our actions, what do? We create an intelligent pathway for ourselves. To do what? To build the environment, right, the atmosphere that's more conducive for us. That's what yoga teaches you to do. Because if you change your mental outlook, you do what?
Change everything.
You change everything. Because what do we know about mind energy? Because mind is an energy, right? What do we know about mind energy? What does mind energy do? What is the definition I gave you? I gave you for mind energy.
Molds and shapes body.
It molds, right? And shapes prana, right? Or energy. Now, a better way to look at this is cross out the word prana and put matter there, if you're a physical person. Okay? Because that's what matter is, energy. It's solidified energy. But that's what mind does. So you have to understand that yama teaches you to control your thoughts and actions. Niyama teaches you to polish your thoughts and actions through what? Through moral what?
Living.
Huh?
Moral
living. Right? And then once you got that down, it teaches you to energize your thought and actions through what? Through pranayama. Right? So you're amplifying your good actions now through pranayama. And then we go to we have asana, which teaches you to manipulate the new control actions and more actions, right? Manipulate the subtle energy, and you add the pranayama that amplifies it. And now, once you have did that, now you reject it all through withdrawing your consciousness, okay? Because now that you have kind of cleaned up the atmosphere a little bit, now you want to withdraw your physical senses from this physical world and make connection with the mental part of you. And let the mental part of you know that you, the I, or the I am, the spirit, who's working through the I, the soul, is here to take control. You see? And that's what you do. Okay? That's what withdrawing the consciousness does. You create a series of actions that lead you to that point where you're not blinking the mind. Do not blink the mind. Blinking the mind is evil. It brings about evil resorts, in other words. You know, yoga doesn't teach you to blink the mind, especially in the beginning. It doesn't teach you to do that. But it teaches you to withdraw the consciousness, withdraw your consciousness within you to, in other words, cut off your sight, cut off your hearing, cut off your smell and your taste, and know who you really are, right? Go and withdraw yourself into the mental part of you, into the auric fields of you, and realize the infinite part of yourself. That's what it teaches you to do, not blanking your mind. Most people who tell you, oh, go and blank your mind, run from them. Run, and I mean run. Because blanking of the mind brings about psychosis. Okay? So what it does is it's like saying, okay, I'm tired and sleepy, and I'm going to retire to my bed, but I'm going to open all the doors and windows. And you live in the middle of the hood. Okay? So that's what blinking the mind is. You don't want to leave your door open, right? When you know that it's 100,000 starving people out there who's only trying to survive. Okay? So, and then you make it tempting for them. So you just as much as blame as they are for them taking from you, because you created conditions to allow them to do that. So that's what you're doing. So don't blink the mind. Don't do that. Okay? It's very dangerous. Dr. George King said he said, I tell you what, instead of doing that, pitch a tent in the middle of the highway. Go to sleep there. You know, and he's old. The caveat was at the heart of the busiest rush hour, during rush hour. You know, that's how dangerous it is. So stay away from it. It's not good. You know. So the proper way is to withdraw there's many techniques to withdraw your consciousness by turning off your hearing, your sight, your smell, and your taste. And then reopen that, turn it back on in the mental body so that you see through the aura, you taste through the aura, you smell through the aura. You know, that's what you want to do, okay? And by doing that, you will gain control over your senses. And that's one of the techniques. Okay, now, concentration. Concentration is the sixth one, right?
Yeah.
Concentration is when you take your mind down one train of thought without allowing the mind to wander off of that thought. That's what concentration is, okay? Concentration is the beginning of any yoga practice. You must learn to concentrate. You must gain the ability to concentrate because you need to be able to take all your sensory perception. Like I said, if you was going to concentrate on any object, you must be able to take all your concentration and place it on that object. And the outside world disappears. It's just you and that object. When you can think about that one thing without any interruption, without any grasshopping thoughts, you can train yourself to do that, right? You have developed concentration. And once you develop this concentration, then the concentration turns into contemplation, which is the seventh limb. And contemplation, once you can concentrate on something for a long period of time without any altering thoughts, without any grasshopping thoughts, and you can have this for a while, you know, maybe 30 minutes, an hour, without any interruption, then you produce this thing called contemplation. Contemplation is a thing that brings on psychic abilities. It brings on psychic abilities. Now, at that point, you go so much, you look and study that one object so much that you can begin to tap into the mental and vital energy patterns that's within the object that you are concentrating on. And that's the psychic images that you begin to pick up. You can begin to, in other words, tap into the mind energy that configure that object. So you know what that object, how that object was brought about, what's holding it together, what's the science behind it, who brought that science to light on this earth, what date, times, all that stuff is there, because the same way it is on you. A person who can read your aura, when you walk before them, they can pick up dates, names, all that stuff, because it's there in your aura. They can just tap into it and look at it. They concentrate on any one part of your aura, and sometimes it's like a television screen come up and they see, and all these different pictures come out, and within those pictures is information. And they can read it the same way you can read on a computer now. You know, the computer uses what? The electromagnetic spectrum, right? To tap into that. It's reading this information. If you go and study the ancient science, the ancient tantric knowledge, you'll see that the electromagnetic spectrum was talked about thousands upon thousands of years ago. They call it the tavic rays, all right? They radiate from the absolute and through all the solar logoses, which is the sun. So the same thing with every object, right? Every object have a vortex center, and that vortex center releases these tavic rays, and it receives these tavic rays. And on those tavic rays is all the knowledge and information of that object. So when you can begin to contemplate, you can begin to read those tavic rays. And after you have learned to do that, the yogis tell us that once you develop the ability of contemplation, then you must take the contemplation to the level where you can perform sanyamas on any and everything you see. And a sanyama is necessarily reading and tapping into the information of anything, and being able to not only read and tap into it, but reproduce it, in other words. let's say in Swami Vivekananda book on Raja Yoga, they talked about the sanyamas, and Vivekananda said if a yogi was to do a sanyama on the elephant, right? Because the elephant has great strength, he can do a sanyama on the elephant, and he can see the pattern and configuration of energy of prana that the elephant pulled within its aura and chakras, and reproduce that configuration within his body for a short period of time or whenever. It depends on how strong his sanyama is. And he can take on that energy configuration and be as strong as an elephant. That's what sanyama is. Now, the yogi takes this, these sanyamas on everything, and he learns many different things. He becomes a self-teacher. You don't need to go to the universities anymore. Everything teaches him. You can touch anything, understand anything with a touch or with contemplation. All right?
So a sanyama copies the mind configuration of whatever it is that you are.
It allows you to do that, yes.
So you could do some yamas on textbooks and
Yes.
learn everything. And
Yes. You can touch a textbook and pick up the same way the computer picks up all that information at once and stream it across the internet. Then there's a subtle level that you do that the body can do it much quicker than a computer. Okay? You pick it up in pictures and you understand it. Okay? So that contemplation leads you to the eighth limb, which is meditation. At meditation, the persons who is meditating on a particular object, they learn to become one with the object. In other words, they're not only reading and picking up the vital energy that's running back and forth through that particular object, but they make themselves a part of that so that they can experience the feeling, the life of that particular object. They do it for a second, for a minute, for an hour, whatever they choose to be, however strong, whatever level their concentrative, contemplative, and meditative ability is. Okay, at this point, what happens in meditation, and true meditation, there's very few people who can do meditation, is that they raise the power of Kundalini. They take all the subtle energy within the Nati pathways, the 242 Nati pathways, and they draw all that energy back down to the base of the spine, and they push that energy up through Shushuna. Now, when they were concentrating, only a small amount of that energy was pushed down through Shushuna, only a small portion of it. When they were contemplating, the same thing, only a tiny small portion of that energy was pushed up through Shushuna, right? In order to understand what they was translating. But in meditation, they take all the energy and they push it through Shushuna, and they fully open the chakras. Now, when they do this, they place their body, their physical body, in a state of conscious death. That's how you know it's real. Okay? So that's true meditation. True meditation is when you can place the physical body in a state of conscious death. All right? Anybody who say that's not the true definition, run from them. Get away from them. All the yogis that have came and have been recognized to be true yogis, they state that that's the case. Okay? They take this energy, they drain the body, because all the blockages are out now. They have moved all the blockages out of the body, out of the naughty pathways, all the main blockages, and they push this subtle energy that's flowing through the nadis in order to make the body seem lifelike, and they push it up through Sushumna, through the Brahmanati, within Sushumna, and they raise it to the sex center, or the solar plexus center, or the heart center, or the throat center, or the Christ center, in order to read or become a part of that thing that they are concentrating on so that they can understand it. Okay? And when they finish, they must bring the energy back down and push the energy back out through the nadis. Okay? So that's true meditation. And those are the 8 limbs of yoga. Okay, just to give you a summary on what we're going to go through. So, is there any questions?
So when they bring it down, they have to be able to push it back through, down the chakras and through all the pathways as well. What happens if it doesn't?
If they don't, then they die. They stay in that state of death. If they push it up, they have to be able to bring it back down and walk among man again. If not, they can easily become crippled, or they can easily die. So it's a very dangerous practice. And most of these practices can only be practiced with a proven teacher. Okay, most of these exercises are not given out to the public without the guidance of a teacher. Yeah.
You said that when you achieve true meditation, you're in a state of consciousness, right?
Right.
Like, how is it different from blanking your mind?
It's worlds of difference. When you blank your mind, like I said, when you blank your mind, what you're doing is like opening your auric door, your aura up to any disconnected entities. You know how you have drug fiends roaming around at night looking for a good fix? Okay, on the astral planes in the lower hells, you have drug fiends that do that. Because you're a drug fiend on this physical plane, that doesn't mean you're going to die and then go to hell or heaven and just be normal again, be this angel. You're going to have the same wants and desires you had here on earth. So they're a drug addict here on earth. Most likely they're going to be a drug addict over there until they raise above that level of consciousness. So let's say someone here and they have a tendency to use drugs, and now all of a sudden they want to get into yoga and meditation. So they haven't really kicked the habit, but they on this remission, let's say, and they begin to do this, and they blank their mind. So the drug fiend on the other side notice that their aura, that they have this within themselves. So that's a good candidate to use to lock themselves in their aura and go experience that high again. That's what you're opening your door to.
To possession.
Huh? To possession, yeah. So you don't want to do that because a lot of people, they don't understand why they crave certain things or why they think they was over certain things, and all of a sudden they right back at it. Especially they done got on the spiritual pathway, but they having a went on the spiritual pathway in a proper way. They haven't got rid of all those impurable habits or deeds that they have, you know. So that's something you want to cleanse yourself of. And you want to walk the right pathway to make sure you don't open the door for that anymore.
It might also be other forms too, right? Like greed, lust for power. I say it can be other weaknesses too, right?
Yeah, it could be lust for power. It could be all types of things. Someone see, oh, that's an egomaniac. I can experience that because I like it, you know, because in the astral world, they feed off of negative energy. Okay? So the more negative energy that we create, the more they can feed off of this. They want that more than what they want any type of food. Okay? If I had time, I'd go into that. I go into the whole energy manipulation thing. But that's what they do. Okay, so it's something that is very, very dangerous to blank your mind. So don't do it. I know a lot of teachers tell you to do it, but don't do it. It's very, very dangerous. And then those people who do it on a regular basis take time to study them. And then you'll have enough experience to come and talk about it. You'll see the danger in it. Now, it's so prevalent. The only thing you have to do is just observe yourself. Observe those people who blank their mind on a regular basis. You'll notice those things. Any other questions? So you understand, or are you still confused? If there's no other questions, then we can go ahead and close out. All right. So next week we'll go into pranayama.